Before the great flood, when the world was still pure and untouched, the heavens looked down in quiet order. Humanity was young and innocent. So God, in his wisdom, chose guardians to watch over them, 200 angels who would guide and protect the children of earth. These were called the Watchers, the sons of heaven. One day, God spoke to them, "Go now, my watchers, and guard the world I have made. Let no corruption rise from the dust. Guide them in silence, and behold, but do not touch." They understood well what God's command meant. Obedient and resolute, they prepared to fulfill their duty. Then the sky opened, and the watchers began their descent through the clouds toward the waiting earth. At their head was Semjaza, their leader. He carried himself with quiet authority. Beside him walked Azazel, whose mind was restless even in heaven. He had always looked upon creation with a questioning gaze, eager to understand what lay beneath the surface of all things. They came to rest upon the peak of Mount Hermon, where the stars seemed close enough to touch. It was the closest they were permitted to come to the earth below, high enough to see all that lived, yet distant enough to remain apart, as their duty required. Semjaza looked upon the faces of his brothers. "Brothers of heaven," he said, "we have come to watch over mankind. But the earth is vast, and the hearts of men are untested. If one among us falters, the burden will fall on all. Let us swear an oath to stand together, always." Azazel stepped forward with shining eyes. "If we fall together," he said. "Let it be sealed among us." The others raised their hands toward the stars. Their voices joined as one. "We are bound together. We will not forsake one another." Time passed, and the watchers watched men light fires and share their first songs beneath the moon. They saw the laughter of children and the quiet love between husband and wife. They saw the joy of life, and something within them began to stir. At first, they only observed, but the longer they lingered, the harder it became to stay apart. Semjaza watched the daughters of men as they drew water from the rivers. "They live so freely," he thought. "They know no command but the beat of their own hearts." Azazel stood beside him. "They are fragile," he said quietly. "And yet, there is strength in them, the kind that does not bow, even to heaven." The others began to whisper among themselves too. Curiosity turned to longing, and longing turned to desire. Semjaza felt the weight of it pressing on his chest. He turned his face toward the sky, as if searching for a voice to silence what he felt. But there was only wind. He looked again at the world below, and he envied what he saw. The watchers were no longer only watchers. They were witnesses to something they could not resist. For the first time in eternity, the sons of heaven felt desire. Days turned into months, and months into years. Yet Semjaza's gaze never wavered. He watched the world below with the same quiet wonder. And even though they had sworn an oath, hesitation lingered in his heart. And then, finally, he broke the stillness. "Brothers," he said, "we have watched them for so long. Their lives are brief, yet they burn with a light we do not know. Is it truly wrong to wish to walk among them?" Arakiel answered, "It is not wrong to wish, but the act will condemn us. Heaven forbids it." Semjaza turned to him. "And yet, is heaven not silent?" "Perhaps the silence is permission." Azazel stepped closer. "You fear punishment, Semjaza. You think you will fall alone. But we have sworn together. If one falls, all fall. None will turn away." Semjaza's gaze drifted back to the earth. "I only fear," he said, "that in seeking love, we will bring ruin." Arakiel placed a hand on his shoulder. "We already chose, brother. The vow is made. Let us finish what we began." The air grew heavy, and silence settled over them. Even the night seemed to wait. Then Semjaza lifted his face to the sky and whispered, "So be it." And the watchers descended once again. But this time they came through clouds and light, descending toward the earth that had long drawn their eyes and stirred their hearts. To the eyes of men, they appeared as tall and radiant beings. The daughters of men saw them and trembled. Semjaza approached one woman by the river. Her eyes reflected the starlight. "Do not be afraid," he said softly. "I have watched over you since your birth." She trembled. "You are not of this world." "No," he said, "but tonight I choose to walk within it." And so the watchers took wives among the daughters of men. They lived with them, and for the first time, heaven and earth became one. Light and flesh joined in a single breath. From this union came the Nephilim, mighty and restless giants. Their strength had no limit, and their hunger knew no end. They ruled over men like gods, and the world trembled beneath them. While Enoch was resting in his bed, sleeping, two extraordinary figures suddenly appeared beside him, greater than any men he had ever encountered on earth. Their faces radiated like the brightness of the sun, and their eyes burned like blazing lamps. From their mouths fire seemed to emerge, and their garments shimmered with what looked like feathers. Their arms, adorned with golden wings, glowed beside his bedside. They called to him softly, "Enoch, Enoch." Startled, he awoke from his slumber, and they spoke with gentle assurance. "Be of good cheer, Enoch, and do not be afraid. The everlasting God has sent us to you, and today you shall ascend with us into the heavens." They lifted him up, placing him upon their wings, and together they soared above the earth, carried by the clouds. Higher and higher they ascended, past the air, and still further into the realm of the ether until they reached the first heaven. There the Elohim revealed to Enoch the human and divine mysteries, and he also learned about the moment when the angels had fallen. As humanity grew and multiplied in those days, many beautiful daughters were born to them. The angels, the children of heaven, saw these women and were filled with desire. They said to each other, "Let's choose wives from among the daughters of men and have children with them." Semjaza, their leader, hesitated and said, "I'm afraid you won't all follow through with this plan, and I alone will be left to bear the great punishment for this sin." But they all responded, "Let's swear an oath together and bind ourselves to this plan, so no one backs out." So they all swore together, binding themselves with a solemn promise. There were 200 of them in total, and they descended to earth during the days of Jared, landing on the summit of Mount Hermon. They named it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves with an oath there. These are the names of their leaders: Semjaza, their chief, Arakiba, Ramel, Kokabiel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Danel, Ezekiel, Barakijal, Asael, Armaros, Batarel, Ananel, Zakiel, Samsapeel, Satarel, Turel, Jomjael, and Sariel. These were their captains, each commanding groups of 10. Together with these leaders, the rest of the angels took wives from among the women of earth. Each chose one, and they entered into them, defiling themselves. They taught these women magic spells, charms, root cutting, and introduced them to the knowledge of plants. The women became pregnant and gave birth to enormous giants whose height reached thousands of feet. These giants consumed all of humanity's resources, and when humans could no longer provide for them, the giants turned against humanity and began to devour them. They sinned against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, and even began to eat each other's flesh and drink blood. The earth itself cried out, accusing the lawless ones. Azazel taught humanity how to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He revealed the secrets of metals, how to work with them, and introduced the crafting of bracelets, ornaments, and the use of antimony. He also taught the art of beautifying the eyes, the value of precious stones, and the use of dyes. Wickedness spread like wildfire. People indulged in sin, committed fornication, and became thoroughly corrupt in their ways. So who were the Watchers? According to the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text from around 300 BC, the Watchers were no ordinary angels. They were a select group, chosen by God for a mission unlike any other, to oversee humanity in its earliest days. Their purpose was profound, yet delicate, to observe, guide, and protect the fragile human race as it took its first uncertain steps into existence. At this time, humanity was raw and untamed, barely scratching the surface of its potential. Life was simple but unpredictable, full of both beauty and struggle. Communities were forming, but survival often felt like a battle against the elements. In his wisdom, God saw fit to appoint the Watchers to this sacred task, not to interfere, but to quietly guide, ensuring humanity grew in harmony with divine principles. The Watchers were exceptional beings. They were angels of immense wisdom and power, chosen for their discipline and devotion. They were meant to act as guardians, an invisible line between the divine and mortal realms. From their vantage point in the heavens, they observed humanity's joys and sorrows, its perseverance and fragility. Humanity was not perfect, but it held a spark, an unpredictable, untamed potential that fascinated even the angels. But what happens when those tasked with guiding humanity begin to question their own roles? What if their fascination turns into something forbidden? This is where the story of the Watchers takes a dramatic turn, one that would change not only the Watchers but the course of humanity forever. The Watchers didn't just watch, they acted, and their actions would shake the very fabric of creation. It began with curiosity, perhaps even admiration. Soon this admiration turned into something far more dangerous. The beauty of human life, the complexity of emotion, and yes, the allure of human women, proved too much for some of them. One angel, Semjaza, couldn't resist. He saw in humanity something extraordinary, something untamed yet filled with potential. But he knew the risks. This kind of contact with humanity was strictly forbidden. Still, he couldn't ignore his desires. So, he devised a plan. If he were to fall, he wouldn't fall alone. Semjaza rallied others, convincing them to take an oath of rebellion. 200 angels pledged to leave their heavenly posts, descending to earth to act on their desires, whatever the cost. And that's where everything changed. This was the beginning of something much larger, something that would echo through time. Stay with us, because the story of the Watchers is far from over. What they did wasn't just a betrayal, it might have been the spark of an entirely new chapter in the history of humanity. The Watchers didn't come to Earth empty-handed. They brought gifts, powerful, transformative knowledge that propelled humanity forward in ways we could have never imagined. But as history has shown, knowledge is a double-edged sword. What the Watchers gave us shaped civilization, but it also unleashed chaos. Let's start with Azazel. Among the 200 Watchers, his name stands out, and for good reason. Azazel introduced humanity to metallurgy, teaching us how to forge weapons from iron and bronze. This was a lesson in dominance. With weapons, humans no longer needed to rely on brute strength or sheer numbers. Power could now be wielded by those who controlled the tools of war. Battles became bloodier, and conflicts escalated as tribes fought for territory, resources, and revenge. Weapons brought power, and power bred violence. But Azazel didn't stop there. He also revealed the secrets of adornment. Jewelry, makeup, and other symbols of beauty became widespread. What might seem harmless today was, in ancient times, a revelation. These gifts bred vanity and desire, fueling envy, seduction, and manipulation. The Watchers had introduced humanity to a world where appearance could be a weapon as dangerous as any blade. While Azazel shaped the Earth's physical tools, another Watcher, Kokabiel, turned humanity's eyes to the heavens. He taught us astrology, the study of the stars, and the secrets of celestial movements. To early humans, this was revolutionary. The heavens, once an unknowable expanse, now became a cosmic map, one that could predict seasons, navigate lands, and even foresee future events. But with this knowledge came another temptation, the desire to control fate. Amaras taught the art of enchantments and curses, introducing humanity to the world of sorcery. These teachings opened doors to manipulating the natural world and other people. Magic, once hidden in the shadows, became a tool wielded by those seeking power. At first, these gifts seemed like blessings. Agriculture flourished, societies became more organized, and humanity began to assert control over its environment. The Watchers' knowledge laid the foundation for early civilizations. But this progress came at a cost. Weapons led to war. Vanity drove corruption. Magic and astrology, once tools of wonder, became sources of fear and manipulation. The Book of Enoch describes how the greatest consequence of the Watchers' rebellion was the creation of the Nephilim. These hybrid beings, born of forbidden unions between angels and humans, were giants in every sense of the word. Their physical size was matched only by their appetites for food, for power, and for destruction. The Book of Enoch describes how the Nephilim consumed the earth's resources, turning fertile lands into barren wastelands. Their presence disrupted the balance of nature itself, leaving devastation in their wake. It wasn't just the Nephilim's physical dominance that terrified humanity. It was their moral corruption. The Nephilim were said to have inherited the worst traits of both their angelic and human parents: arrogance, greed, and a thirst for control. They were tyrants, and their reign of terror pushed humanity to the brink. Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven, and what they saw broke their hearts. Blood flowed across the earth, and lawlessness spread like a plague. They turned to each other in despair and said, "The earth, once peaceful and uninhabited, now cries out with the voices of the suffering. Their cries have reached the very gates of heaven, begging for justice." The souls of humanity were pleading to the holy ones in heaven, asking, "Please take our case before the Most High." In anguish, the angel spoke to the Lord, saying, "O Lord of lords, God above all gods, King of kings, your glorious throne has stood for all generations, and your name is holy and blessed forever. You are the creator of everything, and all things are under your control. Nothing can be hidden from you, for you see all. You see what Azazel has done, how he has led the world into darkness, teaching humanity forbidden knowledge, secrets that were meant to stay in heaven. And Semjaza, who was given authority over his followers, has led them to earth. They have taken human women for themselves, defiling them, and through their sin, the women gave birth to giants. Now the earth is soaked in blood and filled with evil. The souls of the dead cry out to heaven, and their sorrowful voices cannot be silenced. They weep for justice, for the terrible wrongs that are being committed on earth. And you, Lord, you know everything before it happens. You see this devastation, but we don't understand why you allow it. You haven't told us what to do." Then the Most High, the Holy and Great One, finally spoke. His voice thundered with authority, and he sent Uriel to the son of Lamech. "Go to Noah," he commanded, "and tell him, 'In my name hide yourself. The end is near. The whole earth is about to be destroyed by a great flood. Everything will be wiped out. Tell him so he may escape and his descendants may survive, to carry on the generations of the world.'" Then the Lord turned to Raphael and said, "Go, find Azazel. bind his hands and feet, cast him into the darkness, into the desert of Dudail. Dig a deep pit and throw him inside. Pile jagged rocks over him. Let him remain there, buried in darkness, so he may never see the light again. He will stay there forever, and on the day of final judgment, he will be thrown into the eternal fire. But now heal the earth, cleanse it from the corruption brought by the angels, announce the healing of the land, so that not all humanity will perish from the secrets the Watchers revealed. The whole earth has been ruined by what Azazel taught, so let him bear the weight of all sin. The Lord spoke to Gabriel with a heavy command, "Go forth against the unholy offspring, the rebellious and corrupt. Destroy the children born from sin, the children of the fallen Watchers. Set them against each other. Let them battle and wipe each other out, for their days are numbered, and they will not live long." He continued, "And as for their fathers, the Watchers, let no plea they make on behalf of their children be heard. They had hoped for eternal life, thinking their offspring might live for 500 years, but their hopes will be shattered." Then the Lord turned to Michael and said, "Bind Semjaza and his companions, those who have tainted themselves by uniting with women and defiling their purity. When they witness their sons killing each other and see the destruction of those they love, bind them tight in the depths of the earth. They will remain there, imprisoned for 70 generations, until the final judgment, until the day of reckoning that will last forever. On that day, they will be thrown into the fiery abyss, into torment and eternal imprisonment, where they shall never be free. Anyone condemned to destruction will be bound with them, sharing their fate for all generations to come. Wipe away the spirits of the corrupt and the children of the Watchers, for they have wronged humanity. Let all wickedness be cleansed from the face of the earth, and let righteousness and truth take root. Let it be a blessing, a new beginning, where justice and joy will grow forever." The Lord promised, "The righteous will survive, they will thrive, and live long enough to have thousands of descendants. They will live in peace, from their youth to their old age, without fear or sorrow. The earth will be tended with righteousness, flourishing with trees and overflowing with blessings. The most desirable trees will cover the land, vines will yield an abundance of wine, and the seeds sown in the ground will bear 1,000-fold. Even a small measure of olives will produce 10 presses of oil. Cleanse the earth from all oppression, from every form of evil, sin, and godlessness. Wipe away the filth that has tainted it. Then all the children of humanity will become righteous. Every nation will adore and praise me, and all will worship. The earth will be purified from all defilement, sin, punishment, and torment. Never again will I send such suffering upon it, from generation to generation, forevermore. In those days, I will open the heavenly storehouses of blessings and rain them down upon the earth, rewarding the work and toil of humanity. Truth and peace will walk hand in hand, lasting throughout all the days of the world and across every generation of humankind." Before these events, Enoch had disappeared, hidden away from humanity. No one knew where he had gone or what had become of him. Enoch's life was intertwined with the Watchers, and he spent his days among the holy ones. The angels, the children of heaven, saw these women and were filled with desire. They said to each other, "Let's choose wives from among the daughters of men and have children with them." Semjaza, their leader, hesitated and said, "I'm afraid you won't all follow through with this plan, and I alone will be left to bear the great punishment for this sin." But they all responded, "Let's swear an oath together and bind ourselves to this plan, so no one backs out." So they all swore together, binding themselves with a solemn promise. There were 200 of them in total, and they descended to earth during the days of Jared, landing on the summit of Mount Hermon. They named it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves with an oath there. These are the names of their leaders: Semjaza their chief, Arakiba, Ramel, Kokabiel, Tamiel, Ramiel, Danel, Ezekiel, Barakijal, Asael, Armaros, Batarel, Ananel, Zakiel, Samsapeel, Satarel, Turel, Jomjael, and Sariel. These were their captains, each commanding groups of 10. Together with these leaders, the rest of the angels took wives from among the women of earth. Each chose one, and they entered into them, defiling themselves. They taught these women magic spells, charms, root cutting, and introduced them to the knowledge of plants. The women became pregnant and gave birth to enormous giants whose height reached thousands of feet. These giants consumed all of humanity's resources, and when humans could no longer provide for them, the giants turned against humanity and began to devour them. They sinned against birds, beasts, reptiles, and fish, and even began to eat each other's flesh and drink blood. The earth itself cried out, accusing the lawless ones. Azazel taught humanity how to make swords, knives, shields, and breastplates. He revealed the secrets of metals, how to work with them, and introduced the crafting of bracelets, ornaments, and the use of antimony. He also taught the art of beautifying the eyes, the value of precious stones, and the use of dyes. Wickedness spread like wildfire. People indulged in sin, committed fornication, and became thoroughly corrupt in their ways. Semjaza taught the knowledge of enchantments and root cutting. Armaros taught how to undo spells. Barakijal shared the secrets of astrology. Kokabel taught about constellations. Ezekiel revealed the knowledge of clouds. Arakiel explained the signs of the earth. Shamsiel revealed the signs of the sun. And Sariel taught the course of the moon. As humanity perished under the weight of their corruption, their cries of suffering rose up to heaven. Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from heaven, and what they saw broke their hearts. Blood flowed across the earth, and lawlessness spread like a plague. They turned to each other in despair and said, "The earth, once peaceful and uninhabited, now cries out with the voices of the suffering. Their cries have reached the very gates of heaven, begging for justice." The souls of humanity were pleading to the holy ones in heaven, asking, "Please take our case before the Most High." In anguish, the angels spoke to the Lord, saying, "O Lord of lords, God above all gods, King of kings, your glorious throne has stood for all generations, and your name is holy and blessed forever. You are the creator of everything, and all things are under your control. Nothing can be hidden from you, for you see all. You see what Azazel has done, how he has led the world into darkness, teaching humanity forbidden knowledge, secrets that were meant to stay in heaven. And Semjaza, who was given authority over his followers, has led them to earth. They have taken human women for themselves, defiling them, and through their sin, the women gave birth to giants. Now the earth is soaked in blood and filled with evil. The souls of the dead cry out to heaven, and their sorrowful voices cannot be silenced. They weep for justice, for the terrible wrongs that are being committed on earth. And you, Lord, you know everything before it happens. You see this devastation, but we don't understand why you allow it. You haven't told us what to do." Then the Most High, the Holy and Great One, finally spoke. His voice thundered with authority, and he sent Uriel to the son of Lamech. "Go to Noah," he commanded, "and tell him, 'In my name hide yourself. The end is near. The whole earth is about to be destroyed by a great flood. Everything will be wiped out. Tell him so he may escape and his descendants may survive, to carry on the generations of the world.'" Then the Lord turned to Raphael and said, "Go, find Azazel, bind his hands and feet, cast him into the darkness, into the desert of Dudail. Dig a deep pit and throw him inside. Pile jagged rocks over him. Let him remain there, buried in darkness, so he may never see the light again. He will stay there forever, and on the day of final judgment, he will be thrown into the eternal fire. But now heal the earth, cleanse it from the corruption brought by the angels, Announce the healing of the land, so that not all humanity will perish from the secrets the Watchers revealed. The whole earth has been ruined by what Azazel taught, so let him bear the weight of all sin. The Lord spoke to Gabriel with a heavy command, "Go forth against the unholy offspring, the rebellious and corrupt. Destroy the children born from sin, the children of the fallen Watchers. Set them against each other. Let them battle and wipe each other out, for their days are numbered, and they will not live long." He continued, "And as for their fathers, the Watchers, let no plea they make on behalf of their children be heard. They had hoped for eternal life, thinking their offspring might live for 500 years, but their hopes will be shattered." Then the Lord turned to Michael and said, "Bind Semjaza and his companions, those who have tainted themselves by uniting with women and defiling their purity. When they witness their sons killing each other and see the destruction of those they love, bind them tight in the depths of the earth. They will remain there, imprisoned for 70 generations, until the final judgment, until the day of reckoning that will last forever. On that day, they will be thrown into the fiery abyss, into torment and eternal imprisonment, where they shall never be free. Anyone condemned to destruction will be bound with them, sharing their fate for all generations to come. Wipe away the spirits of the corrupt and the children of the Watchers, for they have wronged humanity. Let all wickedness be cleansed from the face of the earth, and let righteousness and truth take root. Let it be a blessing, a new beginning, where justice and joy will grow forever." The Lord promised, "The righteous will survive, they will thrive, and live long enough to have thousands of descendants. They will live in peace, from their youth to their old age, without fear or sorrow. The earth will be tended with righteousness, flourishing with trees and overflowing with blessings. The most desirable trees will cover the land, vines will yield an abundance of wine, and the seeds sown in the ground will bear 1,000-fold. Even a small measure of olives will produce 10 presses of oil. Cleanse the earth from all oppression, from every form of evil, sin, and godlessness. Wipe away the filth that has tainted it. Then all the children of humanity will become righteous. Every nation will adore and praise me, and all will worship. The earth will be purified from all defilement, sin, punishment, and torment. Never again will I send such suffering upon it, from generation to generation, forevermore. In those days, I will open the heavenly storehouses of blessings and rain them down upon the earth, rewarding the work and toil of humanity. Truth and peace will walk hand in hand, lasting throughout all the days of the world and across every generation of humankind." Before these events, Enoch had disappeared, hidden away from humanity. No one knew where he had gone or what had become of him. Enoch's life was intertwined with the Watchers, and he spent his days among the holy ones. I, Enoch, bless the Lord of majesty, the King of all ages. And then the Watchers summoned me, Enoch, the scribe. They called to me and said, "Enoch, you scribe of righteousness, go and deliver this message to the Watchers of heaven, those who abandoned their holy and eternal dwelling, who defiled themselves by uniting with women and behaved like the children of earth. You have brought great destruction to the world. You will have no peace, no forgiveness for your sins. Though you cherish your children, you will witness their violent deaths. You will cry out and lament over their destruction for all eternity, but peace and mercy will never be yours." Enoch went to Azazel, the fallen one, and with a voice firm and resolute, he said, "Azazel, you will know no peace. A harsh and unyielding sentence has already been passed against you, and you will be bound by it for eternity. You will find no mercy, no request will be granted to you. All this is because of the wickedness you have taught mankind, the ungodly ways and sinful acts you revealed to them. Enoch then gathered all the fallen watchers and spoke to them together. A deep fear took hold of them, and they trembled, gripped by terror. Desperate, they pleaded with Enoch, asking him to write a petition for them, to beg for forgiveness on their behalf. They hoped he could read their plea in the presence of the Lord of heaven, for they could no longer lift their faces to the heavens in shame, unable to speak to him after being condemned for their sins. Their guilt weighed down on them like chains. So Enoch did as they asked. He wrote their plea for forgiveness, carefully recording each of their spirit's desires and their deeds, asking for mercy and the extension of their days. A decree has been sent forth from the very presence of the Lord. Those who dwell on the earth are marked for ruin, for they have uncovered forbidden knowledge. They have learned the hidden secrets of the angels, the violent ways of the Satans, and have tapped into powers never meant for man. They have mastered sorcery and witchcraft, and they have created molten images that curse the earth. He spoke of the mysteries they had stolen. They have drawn silver from the dust of the earth, discovered the origin of soft metals, and yet lead and tin, unlike the others, spring forth from a fountain deep within the earth. This fountain is guarded by an angel, a being of immense power and authority. Then Enoch took Noah by the hand, lifting him from the ground. "Go now, my son, for I have sought the Lord of spirits concerning this chaos that stirs the earth." His reply was clear. "Their judgment is sealed, and it shall not be delayed. Because of the sorceries they have unearthed, and the darkness they have embraced, the earth and all who dwell upon it will be swept away in destruction." With a grave tone, Enoch revealed the fate of those who had transgressed. These sinners have no hope of repentance. They are damned for eternity, for they have unveiled what was meant to remain hidden. But fear not, Noah, for the Lord of spirits knows you are pure, untouched by this corruption. You are guiltless in his eyes. Enoch's voice softened, filled with both sorrow and hope. The Lord has chosen your name to dwell among the holy. He will preserve you, even as the earth falls to ruin. And from your line a legacy shall rise, a royal and righteous seed, destined for great honor. A fountain of righteousness shall spring forth from your descendants, beyond measure and for all time. Then Enoch showed Noah the angels of punishment, fierce and ready, prepared to unleash the powers of the deep waters beneath the earth. They stood waiting to bring judgment and destruction upon all who walked the land. But the Lord of spirits held them back, commanding the waters to remain in check, for the time had not yet come. And so Noah departed from the presence of his grandfather, burdened with the knowledge of what was to come. In the days that followed, the word of God came to Noah. It was a voice like thunder, yet tender with love. "Noah, your fate has come before me, blameless and pure. You are a man of love and righteousness. Even now the angels are building a great wooden structure. When their task is complete, I will lay my hand upon it and bless it. From this vessel, the seed of life will emerge, and the earth will be renewed." God's promise was firm. Your descendants shall be established forever. They will spread across the earth, not in desolation, but in abundance. They will be fruitful and multiply, and my blessing will rest upon them generation after generation. Then God spoke of the fallen angels. Those who have brought unrighteousness upon the earth will be cast into the burning valley, the same valley your grandfather Enoch once showed you. It lies in the west, among the mountains rich with gold, silver, iron, and the soft metals of tin and lead. There, a great upheaval will take place, the very waters themselves convulsing with fire. The molten metal will pour forth, and from it will rise a stench of sulfur, joining the burning waters of the valley where the fallen angels are condemned. Noah saw the vision clearly, a valley of fire and flowing streams of molten metal, where those who led mankind astray would be punished for all eternity. But the waters that flowed through the valley would also serve a strange dual purpose. For the kings and the mighty, those who still walked the earth in pride, the waters would bring healing to their bodies. Yet even as their flesh was soothed, their spirits would be tormented, for they had denied the Lord of Spirits. Each day they would see their punishment, and yet refuse to believe in his name. As the flames consumed their bodies, the torment of their spirits would grow, changing forever, in proportion to their suffering. Before the Lord of Spirits, no word would go unjudged. Their fate was sealed, for they had followed the desires of their flesh and denied the Spirit of the Lord. In that day, the waters themselves would transform. When the fallen angels were punished in the fiery streams, the waters would grow cold. The springs of healing would turn bitter, and those who once sought refuge in their warmth would find only ice. Noah heard the archangel Michael declare, "This judgment upon the angels is a testimony for the kings and rulers of the earth. They have sought these waters for the healing of their bodies, but they will not see, nor will they believe that these same waters will one day burn with unquenchable fire, a fire that will consume them for eternity." In the aftermath of the judgment, my revered grandfather Enoch, with deep solemnity, bestowed upon me the sacred teachings inscribed in the Book of Parables. He meticulously gathered these ancient secrets and revealed them to me with reverent care, as though offering a priceless heirloom of divine wisdom. On that fateful day, Michael, the archangel of might and justice, turned to Raphael and spoke with a voice laden with dread and awe. "The weight of the Spirit, the severity of the judgment upon the hidden truths, is almost too much to bear," he said. "Who among us can endure such a profound and fierce judgment, a judgment so consuming that it causes even the steadfast to melt away?" With troubled resolve, Michael addressed Raphael once more. "Who among the heavenly hosts can remain unmoved by the anguish of this decree? How can any heart remain unshaken by the severity of the judgment that has been pronounced upon those who have led the earth astray?" When Michael stood before the Lord of Spirits, he declared with unyielding resolve, "I will not advocate for them before the Lord, for the anger of the Lord of Spirits burns fiercely against them. They have assumed the place of the Lord, usurping his authority. Therefore, all that was hidden, all that was kept from them, shall now be laid bare, and their fate is sealed for eternity. Neither angel nor man shall share in this judgment. They alone shall bear the weight of their eternal damnation. In the wake of this divine judgment, terror shall grip the hearts of the angels, who will tremble at the sight of the revelations they have shown to mankind. They will be the harbingers of fear, their own names whispered with dread among the earth's inhabitants. Behold the names of these angels, each a bearer of dark secrets and destruction. The first, Semjaza; the second, Artakifa; the third, Armen; the fourth, Kokabel; the fifth, Turael; the sixth, Rumjal; the seventh, Danjal; the eighth, Nekael; the ninth, Barakel; the 10th, Azazel; the 11th, Armaros; the 12th, Batarjal; the 13th, Busasejal; the 14th, Hananel; the 15th, Turel; the 16th, Simapeziel; the 17th, Jetrel; the 18th, Tumael; the 19th, Turel; and the 20th, Rumael, and Azazel once more as the chief among them. These are the leaders of the angels, commanding over hundreds, fifties, and tens. Their names are etched in infamy. The first among them was Jekon, the one who led astray all the sons of God, bringing them down to the earth and leading them into the arms of mortal temptation through the daughters of men. The second, Asbael, imparted to these divine beings wicked counsel, guiding them into impurity by defiling themselves with human flesh. The third, Gadrael, revealed to humankind the grievous instruments of death, the blows and tools of demise, from shields to swords. He led Eve astray and showed mankind the implements of war and destruction, thus perpetuating suffering on the earth. The fourth, Penimu, imparted the knowledge of bitter and sweet, unveiling the secrets of wisdom that led humanity into sin through the invention of writing, an art that has caused untold transgressions from ages past until the present day. For men were never meant to validate their actions with ink and parchment. They were created pure and righteous, unmarred by the destructive knowledge that now consumes them. The fifth angel, Semjaza, unveiled to humankind the malevolent strikes of spirits and demons, including the fatal smitings of the unborn in the womb, the serpent's bites, and the harms caused by the scorching heat. His revelations brought about the torment of spirits and bodies alike. The sixth, Azazel, revealed the sacred oath he had made with the holy ones, an oath whose power was both formidable and binding. This oath had been entrusted to Michael, holding within it the strength to command and enforce divine order. The secrets of this oath are mighty. It was through this oath that the heavens were established before the world was made, and the earth was founded upon the waters. Beautiful springs emerged from the secret recesses of the mountains, and the seas were set with boundaries that it dare not transgress. The depths were secured, the sun and moon kept their course, and the stars completed their cycles, all by the power of this oath. The spirits of water, winds, and all elements were bound by it, and their paths were preserved from corruption. The voice of thunder, the light of lightning, the chambers of hail and frost, and all elements of weather give thanks and glorify the Lord of spirits eternally, for they are preserved by this oath. Great joy fills their hearts as they bless and extol the name of the Son of Man, who has been revealed and now sits upon the throne of glory. Let's start with Azazel. Among the 200 watchers, his name stands out, and for good reason. Azazel introduced humanity to metallurgy, teaching us how to forge weapons from iron and bronze. This was a lesson in dominance. With weapons, humans no longer needed to rely on brute strength or sheer numbers. Power could now be wielded by those who controlled the tools of war. Battles became bloodier, and conflicts escalated as tribes fought for territory, resources, and revenge. Weapons brought power, and power bred violence. But Azazel didn't stop there. He also revealed the secrets of adornment. Jewelry, makeup, and other symbols of beauty became widespread. What might seem harmless today was, in ancient times, a revelation. These gifts bred vanity and desire, fueling envy, seduction, and manipulation. The Watchers had introduced humanity to a world where appearance could be a weapon as dangerous as any blade. While Azazel shaped the Earth's physical tools, another Watcher, Kokabiel, turned humanity's eyes to the heavens. He taught us astrology, the study of the stars, and the secrets of celestial movements. To early humans, this was revolutionary. The heavens, once an unknowable expanse, now became a cosmic map, one that could predict seasons, navigate lands, and even foresee future events. But with this knowledge came another temptation, the desire to control fate. Amaras taught the art of enchantments and curses, introducing humanity to the world of sorcery. These teachings opened doors to manipulating the natural world and other people. Magic, once hidden in the shadows, became a tool wielded by those seeking power. At first, these gifts seemed like blessings. Agriculture flourished, societies became more organized, and humanity began to assert control over its environment. The Watchers' knowledge laid the foundation for early civilizations. But this progress came at a cost. Weapons led to war. Vanity drove corruption. Magic and astrology, once tools of wonder, became sources of fear and manipulation. The Book of Enoch describes how the greatest consequence of the Watchers' rebellion was the creation of the Nephilim. These hybrid beings, born of forbidden unions between angels and humans, were giants in every sense of the word. Their physical size was matched only by their appetites for food, for power and for destruction. The Book of Enoch describes how the Nephilim consumed the earth's resources, turning fertile lands into barren wastelands. Their presence disrupted the balance of nature itself, leaving devastation in their wake. It wasn't just the Nephilim's physical dominance that terrified humanity. It was their moral corruption. The Nephilim were said to have inherited the worst traits of both their angelic and human parents: arrogance, greed, and a thirst for control. They were tyrants, and their reign of terror pushed humanity to the brink. As humanity spiraled into chaos, the heavens could no longer remain silent. The Watchers' rebellion had not only corrupted the earth, but defied the very order of creation. Their gifts had unleashed war, greed, and destruction. Their offspring, the Nephilim, consumed the world's resources and spread violence across the land. The earth groaned under the weight of their sins, and God's judgment was inevitable. The Book of Enoch tells us that God, seeing the devastation wrought by the Watchers and their children, summoned his most powerful archangels to intervene. Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel were tasked with restoring balance. Their mission was clear: punish the Watchers, cleanse the earth, and ensure that such rebellion would never happen again. The first target was Azazel. As the architect of humanity's corruption, teaching the secrets of weapons, vanity, and forbidden knowledge, his punishment was swift and severe. Azazel was bound hand and foot and cast into a dark, jagged pit beneath the earth. The archangels covered him with sharp stones, sealing him in an eternal prison. There he would remain, blinded by darkness, until the day of judgment, when he would face his ultimate fate. Semjaza, the leader of the Watchers, was no less culpable. Though he had not shared as much knowledge as Azazel, he had orchestrated the rebellion and led his brethren into sin. Unlike Azazel, who brought tangible tools of war, Penemu's gift was subtle yet transformative: the art of writing. Before Penemu's descent, humanity relied solely on oral traditions to pass down its knowledge. Stories were fleeting, lost with the passage of generations. But Penemu introduced the written word, a tool that could preserve ideas indefinitely. With this gift came the power of memory, culture, and history. Humanity began to record its achievements, map its lands, and inscribe its laws. Yet, as with all gifts of the Watchers, Penemu's knowledge bore a darker edge. Writing also enabled deception. Lies could be etched in stone, conspiracies plotted in ink, and propaganda disseminated across tribes. The truth, once mutable only by memory, became something that could be manipulated by those who wielded the pen. Some legends suggest that Penemu lamented his gift, watching as humanity twisted his creation for selfish ends. In the shadows, he whispered warnings, but they went unheeded. When the archangels descended to deliver divine judgment, Penemu's punishment was to wander the void, with his voice silenced forever, a tragic irony for the scribe of humanity. Sariel, whose name means command of God, was a celestial guide tasked with teaching humanity the secrets of the cosmos. In the age before telescopes and compasses, he revealed the movements of the stars, the cycles of the moon, and the rhythm of celestial time. Sariel's teachings allowed early civilizations to navigate vast oceans, plant crops in sync with the seasons, and gaze upward with a sense of purpose and wonder. But as humanity's understanding of the heavens grew, so did its arrogance. The stars, once symbols of divine mystery, became tools of control. Kings consulted astrologers to foretell wars. Priests manipulated lunar and solar eclipses to solidify their power. The cosmic balance Sariel sought to share was corrupted by humanity's thirst for dominion. His teachings, once intended to illuminate the divine, were used to forge chains of fate. Sariel's fate is also shrouded in mystery. Some traditions claim he was cast into the abyss alongside Semjaza and Azazel, bound in chains beneath the earth. Others whisper that he still roams the skies, a restless spirit, mourning the stars he once hoped would guide humanity to enlightenment. Tamil, or the perfection of God, was the guardian of the deep. His domain was the waters, the oceans, rivers, and the unseen depths of the earth. Tamil taught humanity the mysteries of water, revealing how to harness its power for survival and prosperity. From irrigation to the first rudimentary boats, his gifts transformed fledgling societies into thriving communities. Yet Tamil's lessons extended beyond the practical. He spoke of the sacred nature of water and how it could cleanse the soul and connect humanity to the divine. But in humanity's hands, even this gift was corrupted. Rituals meant for purification became tools of coercion. Rivers were poisoned in war, and the seas were seen not as sacred, but as realms to conquer. Tamil's betrayal of his heavenly mission was subtle, his descent gradual. His fascination with humanity's ingenuity blinded him to their greed. When the Nephilim rose, consuming the earth's resources, Tamil bore witness to the devastation wrought by his teachings. His punishment was said to be unique. Bound beneath the ocean he once cherished, Tamil is condemned to hear the endless cries of the waters he betrayed. Perhaps the most enigmatic of the forgotten watchers is Gadriel, and his story is remembered only in fragments. Unlike his brethren, Gadriel's gift to humanity was not one of creation, but of destruction. He is often blamed for introducing humanity to the concept of warfare, teaching them strategies of battle and the crafting of fortifications. But his influence went deeper. Gadriel's name is also linked to temptation. Some accounts suggest he was the one who whispered to Eve in the Garden of Eden, planting the seed of defiance that would echo through history. Whether this tale is literal or metaphorical, it speaks to his role as a manipulator and a figure who blurred the lines between divine will and human choice. I have seen that violence will increase upon the earth. Great calamities will unfold, and all the wickedness of men will reach its peak. It will be uprooted, destroyed entirely. Yet once again, unrighteousness will rise, and sin, along with violence, will dominate the earth, doubling in its intensity. When sin and blasphemy spread like a plague, and violence in every form abounds, apostasy will grow unchecked. In those days, my sons, a great punishment will come from the heavens. The Holy Lord will rise in his wrath and descend to bring judgment upon the earth. The weight of the coming judgment pressed heavily upon him as he continued, "In that time all violence will be severed at its roots. The deceit and unrighteousness that have taken hold of the earth will be destroyed beneath the heavens. The idols of the nations will be abandoned, their temples burned to the ground, and they will be cast into the fiery judgment. They will perish under the fierce anger of the Lord, forever condemned." But then, raising his voice with hope, he spoke of the future beyond the devastation. "And the righteous will arise from their slumber, their eyes filled with wisdom, and they will be granted understanding. After that, the roots of wickedness will be cut off, and the sinners will perish by the sword, every last one of them, from the blasphemers to the violent. They will meet their end." Enoch paused for a moment, letting the silence fill the air before continuing. "And in that time, a new week will begin, the 8th week of righteousness. A sword will be given to execute justice on the oppressors, and the sinners will be handed over to the righteous. Through their righteousness, they will acquire homes, and a house of eternal glory will be built for the great king, a house that will stand forever. Then, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment will be revealed to the whole world, and all the works of the godless will disappear from the earth. The world will be written for destruction." His voice grew heavy as he spoke of the final judgment. After this, during the 10th week, In the seventh part, there will be the great eternal judgment. God will exact vengeance upon the fallen angels. The first heaven will pass away, and a new heaven will appear, brighter than before. The heavens will shine with a sevenfold light, and after this, there will be countless weeks, stretching into eternity. In those days, all will be goodness and righteousness, and sin will be no more, never to be spoken of again. Looking upon them with deep compassion, Enoch said, "Now I tell you, my sons, I will show you the paths of righteousness and the paths of violence. These I will reveal again, so you may know what is to come. Listen to me, my sons. Walk in the ways of righteousness. Do not follow the path of violence, for all who choose the way of wickedness will perish forever." Then, the book written by Enoch, the complete doctrine of wisdom, praised by all, and a guide for the earth was presented. It was written for all his children who would dwell upon the earth and for the generations yet to come, those who would seek righteousness and peace. Enoch reassured them, "Do not let your spirit be troubled by the times ahead, for the Holy and Great One has set appointed days for all things. The righteous will rise from their sleep and walk in the paths of righteousness. Their lives will be marked by eternal goodness and grace. The Lord will be gracious to the righteous, granting them eternal uprightness, and he will give them power so that they will be filled with goodness and righteousness, walking forever in his light. Sin will perish in the darkness, never to be seen again." And so, Enoch began recounting the things revealed to him from the heavenly tablets. "Concerning the children of righteousness, the chosen of the earth, and the plant of righteousness I speak to you now. These truths I declare, having seen them in the vision from the heavens and learned them from the holy angels. I was born in the 7th of the first week, a time when judgment and righteousness still held sway. After me, in the 2nd week, great wickedness will arise, and deceit will flourish. It will be a time of endings, and though a man will be saved, unrighteousness will take root again, and laws will be made for the sinners." He continued to recount what was shown to him. In the 3rd week, at its close, a man will be chosen, and his descendants will become the plant of righteousness forever. In the 4th week, visions of holiness and righteousness will be granted, and a law will be established for all generations. In the 5th week, the house of glory and dominion will be built to stand forever. But in the 6th week, blindness will afflict all who dwell upon the earth, and their hearts will turn from wisdom. A man will ascend to heaven, and by the end of this week, the house of dominion will be consumed by fire, and the chosen race will be scattered across the earth. He spoke of the 7th week, filled with apostasy and wickedness. At its end, the elect of righteousness will be chosen to receive divine instruction, sevenfold wisdom concerning all of creation. And with great emotion, Enoch cried out, "Who among men can hear the voice of the Holy One without trembling? Who can think his thoughts or behold the vast works of the heavens? Who among mankind can know the breadth and length of the earth, or the measure of the stars? Who could understand the secrets of the heavens?" These mysteries were beyond human grasp, yet they had been shown to him, and now he passed them on to his children. "And in that final judgment," he concluded, "all will be laid bare, and righteousness will prevail forever." Enoch, with a voice full of urgency and a heart heavy with the knowledge of what was to come, addressed his sons. "My sons, I say to you now, love righteousness and walk in its ways, for the paths of righteousness are worthy of your trust. The ways of the unrighteous, however, will suddenly be destroyed. They will vanish as quickly as they appeared. To some men in a future generation, the paths of violence and death will be revealed, but the wise among them will keep far from such paths. They will not follow the road of destruction. But to you, my righteous children, I say this: do not walk in the ways of wickedness, nor tread upon the paths that lead to death. Keep your distance from them, for if you come near, you will surely be destroyed. Instead, seek righteousness. Choose a life that is set apart and walk in the ways of peace. In doing so, you will live, and your days will be prosperous. Hold fast to my words, keep them close in your hearts, and do not allow them to fade from your memory. I know that sinners will try to lead men astray, urging them to forsake wisdom, hoping to leave no room for her in their hearts. But do not give in to these temptations. Woe to those who build their lives upon unrighteousness and oppression, laying foundations of deceit. They will be suddenly overthrown, and peace will forever elude them. Woe to those who build their homes on sin. Their very foundations will be uprooted, and they will fall by the sword. And those who amass gold and silver unjustly will perish without warning. Woe to you, the rich! You have placed your trust in your wealth, but soon your riches will be stripped from you. You have forgotten the Most High in the days of your abundance. You have blasphemed and lived in unrighteousness, and now you are prepared for the day of slaughter, the day of darkness and the great judgment. I declare to you, the one who created you will bring you down. In the day of your fall, there will be no mercy, and the Creator will find no compassion in your destruction. In those days, your righteous ones will stand as a reproach to you, sinners and godless alike. Enoch's heart grew heavy as he continued, "Oh, that my eyes could become a cloud of waters, so that I might weep for you, pouring down my tears as torrents from the heavens. Then perhaps I could find some rest from this anguish that burdens my soul. But who allowed you to practice such wickedness and heap reproaches upon yourselves? Judgment will soon overtake you, sinners. To you, my righteous children, I say this: do not fear the sinners, for the Lord will once again deliver them into your hands. You will execute judgment upon them according to your desires. Woe to those of you who pronounce curses that cannot be revoked. Your sins will distance you from healing, and no remedy will be found for you. Woe to those who repay their neighbors with evil, for you will be repaid in kind according to your wicked deeds. Woe to you, false witnesses, and those who deal in injustice. Your end will come swiftly, and you will perish without warning. Woe to you, sinners, who persecute the righteous. You will be handed over to judgment for your injustices, and the weight of your guilt will be unbearable." And as he slept, visions came crashing down upon him, vivid and filled with judgment. A voice echoed in his dream, commanding him to bring this message to the sons of heaven and rebuke them for their actions. When Enoch awoke, he returned to the watchers. They were gathered together, weeping in a place called Azazel, between the mountains of Lebanon and Semjaza, their faces hidden in grief and despair. With solemn authority, Enoch recounted to them all the visions he had seen while he slept, and there, among their tears, he began to speak words of righteousness, rebuking the fallen watchers for their transgressions. This is the Book of Righteousness, containing the words of reprimand to the eternal watchers, as commanded by the Holy Great One through the vision he revealed to me. In the midst of my sleep, I saw these things, and I now speak them aloud with my human tongue, using the breath given by the Great One to mankind, to communicate and to understand in our hearts. Just as he gave man the power to comprehend wisdom, so too has he given me the power to rebuke the watchers, the once holy children of heaven. I wrote out your petition, and in my vision I saw the truth. Your request will not be granted, not now, not ever. Judgment has been passed upon you for all eternity. From this moment on, you shall never ascend to heaven again. You will remain bound to the earth, confined in its depths, for all the days of the world's existence. Before this, You will witness the destruction of your beloved sons. You will have no joy in them. They will perish before your eyes, cut down by the sword. Even if you weep, even if you pray and utter all the words I have written, your pleas for their forgiveness and your own will not be heard. And then, in my vision, I was taken by clouds that beckoned me, and a mist surrounded me. The stars and lightning sped me forward, and the winds lifted me, carrying me into the heavens. As I was borne upward, I neared a towering wall made of pure crystal, surrounded by tongues of fire. Fear gripped me. I entered through the fiery tongues and saw before me a grand house made entirely of crystal, with walls shimmering like the tessellated floor beneath my feet, also of crystal. The foundation, too, gleamed with the same brilliance. The ceiling resembled the starry sky, streaked with lightning, and between the lightning, I saw fiery cherubim. The heaven above was as clear as water. Flames blazed around the house, and its doors were consumed with fire. As I stepped inside, I was overwhelmed. It was as hot as fire, but as cold as ice. There was no joy in this place, only dread. Fear took hold of me, and my whole body trembled. Trembling uncontrollably, I collapsed, face down on the ground. Then, as I lay prostrate, I saw another house, even greater than the first. Its enormous gate stood open, and it was built from flames of fire. Its splendor and magnificence were beyond words, far surpassing anything I could ever describe. The floor of this house was a river of fire, and above it were the stars and lightning. The ceiling, too, blazed with flames. There, at the heart of it all, I saw a throne, towering and majestic. It gleamed like crystal, and its wheels shone like the burning sun, surrounded by cherubim. Streams of fire poured from beneath the throne, so fierce I could not bear to look directly at it. Upon that throne sat the great glory. His robe was brighter than the sun, purer than the whitest snow. Not even the angels could enter or behold his face, so great was his majesty and splendor. No mortal could bear to gaze upon him. Flames encircled him, and a vast fire burned before him. No one dared approach him. Yet before him stood 10,000 times 10,000, though he required no counsel. The holiest one stood by him, never leaving his side, neither by day nor night. Still trembling, I lay with my face to the ground, unable to move. Then the Lord called to me with his own voice, saying, "Come, Enoch, and listen to my words." One of the holy ones came to me, awakening me gently. He lifted me up, guiding me towards the entrance. With my face bowed low, I obeyed. And he answered me, his voice strong and full of power. "Do not be afraid, Enoch, righteous man and faithful scribe of truth. Come closer and hear my words. Go and tell the watchers of heaven, who have sent you to plead for them. It is not men who should plead for you, but you who should have interceded for men. Why did you abandon the high, holy, and eternal heaven? Why did you lay with woman, defiling yourselves with the daughters of men, taking them as wives, and giving birth to giants, your corrupted sons? Though you were once pure spiritual beings who lived eternal lives, you stained yourselves with the blood of women and produced children of flesh. You craved the desires of mortal flesh and blood, like those who die and fade away. I gave men wives so they could bear children and ensure nothing was lacking on the earth. But you were not like them. You were once spiritual, living eternally, never destined for death, and thus I did not give you wives. For the spiritual dwell in heaven, not on earth. But now the giants, your offspring born of spirits and flesh, shall be called evil spirits on the earth, and here shall be their cursed home. From their bodies, evil spirits have come forth. Their origin lies with you, the fallen watchers. These evil spirits will dwell among men, bringing havoc upon the earth. These spirits will be called evil, because they come from both human and heavenly flesh. They belong to neither, yet they shall torment both. The spirits of the heavenly beings remain in heaven, but the spirits born from the earth, from your sin, shall remain bound to it forever. These spirits of the giants shall bring suffering. They afflict, oppress, destroy, and make war. They do not need food, but are ever hungry and thirsty. Their endless cravings cause misery, and they will rise up against men and women, for they are born of both. Since the days when the giants were slain, their spirits have wandered the earth, destructive, rebellious, and relentless. They shall continue to torment until the day of the final judgment, when all will be brought to an end, both for the watchers and the godless alike. It is on that day that the age will be fully completed. Now, regarding the watchers who sent you to intercede on their behalf, tell them this. Yes, you once dwelled in heaven, but not all the mysteries were revealed to you. Instead, you grasped at knowledge. In the hardness of your hearts, you made these hidden things known to women. Through this, men and women alike now commit great evil on the earth. Therefore, tell them, you shall find no peace, neither in heaven nor on earth. Enoch was taken to a place where those who dwelled there blazed like flames of fire. But when they wished, they could appear as men. Enoch was brought to a vast mountain, whose summit stretched up to the very heavens. He saw the places where the stars and lights of the sky are kept, and the deepest depths where thunder, lightning, and fiery weapons, arrows, and a flaming sword are stored. He was led to living waters and to the blazing fire in the west, where the sun sets each evening. Enoch came to a river of fire, its flames flowing like water, pouring into the great western sea. He saw the great rivers of the world and journeyed into the darkness, to a place where no living creature can walk. He beheld the mountains covered in winter's shadow, and the source from which the waters of the deep flow. He saw the mouths of every river and the entrance to the vast depths below. Enoch saw the storerooms of all the winds and observed how they were arranged to shape creation and lay the strong foundation of the earth. He saw the cornerstone of the earth and the four winds that uphold both the earth and the sky. He watched how the winds spread out the skies, standing between heaven and earth like the pillars that support the heavens. He saw the heavenly winds that turn the sun and guide the stars in their paths. He saw the winds on earth, carrying the clouds and the pathways of angels. At the edge of the earth, he saw the sky above. He went further and saw a place burning day and night, with 7 magnificent mountains, 3 to the east and 3 to the south. The eastern mountains were made of colorful stone, pearl, and jacinth, while the southern mountains were of red stone. The central mountain rose high into the heavens like God's throne, made of pure alabaster with a sapphire summit. Flames burned before him, and beyond these mountains lay the end of the earth. Tell him we are sorry. Tell him we wish to be forgiven. Azazel spoke last. If there is justice, there must be mercy, he said. We ask not for heaven, only for peace. Enoch looked at them for a long moment. Then he said, You wish me to plead with the Almighty? Yes, Semjaza said, go before him. Speak our names. Beg him to remember that once we were his sons. Enoch nodded slowly. I will go, but I make no promise for what he will say. Enoch was taken up in spirit to the higher realms. The stars fell away, and he came before the throne of the Most High. The light was blinding, and the ground beneath him shook with power. He fell on his face and said, Lord of heaven, the watchers have sent me. They beg for mercy. Their hearts are broken. Their children have turned to madness. They do not ask for return to glory, only for forgiveness. For a moment, all was still. Then the voice of the Lord filled the heavens like a storm. Enoch, righteous son of man, hear my words. These watchers were not made to dwell with flesh. They have defiled my creation and revealed secrets that were never meant for mortal hands. You shall say to them, you were in heaven, but now you are of the earth. Enoch bowed his head. Then the Lord spoke again. They ask that I forgive them, but it is not their place to pray for men, nor man's place to pray for them. You shall tell them this: you were not appointed to intercede for mankind, but mankind for you. The heavens shook. Then the voice continued, tell Semjaza and his companions that their offspring, the giants of the earth, will perish by their own hands. The earth will be cleansed by flood and fire. As for them, bind them in the valleys of darkness, beneath the mountains of the earth, until the day of judgment. When Enoch returned, the watchers were waiting. Their faces were desperate for a word of hope, but Enoch's expression was grave. Semjaza stepped forward. What did he say? Enoch's voice was steady. He has spoken. Your children will be destroyed. You will be bound in the earth until the final day. There will be no mercy. The watchers fell silent. Some wept openly, others stood still, frozen in disbelief. Azazel clenched his fists. So even repentance means nothing? Enoch looked at him. You knew the command. You chose to break it. You taught men what they were not meant to know. You gave them pride, and in that pride they will destroy themselves. This is not punishment alone, it is consequence. Semjaza sank to his knees. Then it is over. Yes, Enoch said softly, the flood will come, and with it, the end of all you built. He turned to leave, but paused once more. You wanted to walk among them, he said quietly. Now you will lie beneath them. Enoch's figure faded into the mist, leaving the fallen angels alone with their fate. Semjaza bowed his head, his voice barely a whisper. We sought love, he said, and found damnation. Beside him, Azazel stared into the darkening sky. Perhaps, he said, he will still need us when the world begins again. The silence that followed Enoch's message did not last long. From beyond the veil of light, 4 great archangels descended: Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, each bearing the command of the Almighty. The skies split open with thunder as they came. They were not coming as messengers now, but as instruments of justice. Below them, the world was in ruin. The Nephilim roamed the valleys, towering above the trees, their roars shaking the mountains. The watchers stood helpless as the earth itself seemed to rise against them. Michael's voice broke the silence. It is time. Raphael was the first to move. He descended into the heart of the desert, where Azazel wandered among the wreckage of his creation. Around him lay the broken tools of war, the shattered blades, the rusted armor, the ashes of men. Azazel looked up. So the healer comes to bind the teacher, he said, but Raphael's reply was calm. You have taught enough. With a single motion he struck the ground, and chains of living light burst from the sand, wrapping around Azazel's arms and wings. The angels struggled, but the chains only tightened. Raphael lifted him high above the earth and cast him into the desert of Dudael, a barren place of stone and darkness. Here you will remain, Raphael said, until the fire consumes all impurity. The ground opened beneath Azazel, swallowing him whole. Far from there, Gabriel stood upon the battlefield where the Nephilim raged. Gabriel raised his hand toward the heavens. Let the destroyers destroy themselves, he declared. At his command, madness filled the hearts of the giants. Brother turned against brother, father against son. The cries of the Nephilim filled the air until none were left to cry. Gadriel's influence was insidious, spreading like a contagion through the hearts of men. For this, he was cast into utter darkness, his name erased from the records of the righteous. Yet echoes of his teachings remain in every conflict, every betrayal, and every act of defiance. The fall of the Watchers was meant to erase their influence from the world, but if history has taught us anything, it's that stories this monumental don't simply disappear. The Watchers may be bound beneath the earth, but their legacy reverberates across cultures, myths, and even modern interpretations of humanity's origins and past. Take the Nephilim, for instance, the giants born from forbidden unions between the Watchers and humans. According to the Book of Enoch, these beings were immense in size and appetite, wreaking havoc on the world. But did they truly disappear after the flood? Strikingly, stories of giants appear in cultures across the globe, echoing the Nephilim's description. The Greek Titans, towering beings of immense power, defied the gods and met tragic fates. The Norse Jotun, fierce and colossal, frequently clashed with the divine Aesir. Native American legends also speak of giants who once roamed the earth, shaping the land with their enormous strength. Are these merely myths, or do they reflect fragmented memories of the Nephilim's reign? The parallels across different cultures are striking. Despite being separated by vast distances and epochs, countless civilizations recount the existence of powerful, larger-than-life beings who brought both awe and destruction. Such similarities are far too consistent to dismiss as mere coincidence. They suggest a shared ancient memory that transcends cultural boundaries, hinting at a collective experience or understanding of these colossal figures. These legends continue to resonate, fueling the notion that the Watchers and their forbidden offspring left an indelible mark on human history and mythology. And then there's the knowledge the Watchers shared. Their forbidden teachings might hold the key to understanding the mysteries of ancient structures like the Great Pyramids of Giza, the colossal ruins at Baalbek, or the enigmatic Göbekli Tepe. These architectural marvels defy the capabilities typically attributed to the civilizations of their time, raising questions that modern engineers and archaeologists still struggle to answer. Take the Great Pyramids of Giza, for example. Each massive limestone block weighs several tons, with some estimates suggesting that the heaviest blocks exceed 70 tons. These stones were not only transported over significant distances, but also positioned with extraordinary precision, aligning the pyramids perfectly with cardinal points and even celestial events like the solstices. How could such precision and scale be achieved without advanced tools or machinery? Similarly, the ruins of Baalbek in Lebanon, home to the Temple of Jupiter, feature megalithic stones known as the Stone of the Pregnant Woman. These blocks weigh over 1,000 tons each, yet they were somehow quarried, transported and placed with uncanny accuracy. Modern cranes would struggle to lift such weights, let alone maneuver them into position as seamlessly as ancient builders managed to do. Göbekli Tepe, often considered the world's oldest temple, adds to the mystery. Dating back more than 11,000 years, it features intricately carved stone pillars, weighing up to 20 tons, arranged in complex circular patterns. Its construction predates the advent of agriculture, leaving historians puzzled as to how a supposedly hunter-gatherer society could organize and execute such an advanced project. These feats seem almost impossible to achieve with the limited knowledge and technology of the time. This has led some to speculate that early civilizations may have been guided by the Watchers, who shared forbidden knowledge that enabled humanity to reach beyond its natural capabilities. Astrology also carries the fingerprints of the Watchers. Kokabiel's teachings about the stars seem to have left an indelible mark on human culture. Ancient peoples built monuments like Stonehenge and the Nabta Playa stone circle, aligning them with the heavens. Cultures such as the Mayans and Babylonians developed intricate calendars and astrological systems, with an accuracy that astonishes even today. While modern science credits these achievements to human observation and ingenuity, the echoes of the Watchers' teachings leave some unconvinced, believing instead that such advancements are far too precise to be mere coincidence. But the Watchers' influence doesn't end in the ancient world. In modern times, they've become entwined with theories about extraterrestrial life. Proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis argue that the Watchers were not merely angels, but beings from another world, advanced entities mistaken for divine messengers by early humans. What if their divine knowledge was simply misunderstood technology? This is only the beginning. There is still more to teach them. And just like that, the Watchers began to wander the world, each revealing secrets that were never meant for mortal hands. Azazel was the first. He moved among the blacksmiths and said, "Why shape the plow alone when you can shape power?" He showed them how to draw metal from the heart of the earth, how to strike iron. "Make it sharp," Azazel whispered, guiding the hammer of a trembling apprentice. "A man with a sword fears no god." In time, the forges glowed brighter than the sun. Men learned to make shields, spears, and armor, and they no longer tilled the soil, they prepared for war. But Azazel's teachings did not end there. To the women, he brought beauty's deception. He ground the dust of gems into powder, showing them how to color their eyes and adorn their bodies. "Let your face shine brighter than the dawn," he said, "and no man will resist your gaze." What began as wonder became vanity. Gold gleamed on their necks, and mirrors filled with pride. Desire, once innocent, turned to hunger. From the mountains, Arakiel descended and taught the knowledge of the earth, how roots could heal, poison, or bind the mind in dreams. "Every plant hides two faces," he said. "One to give life, one to take it." Arakiel lifted his eyes to the night and traced patterns in the stars. "These are not lights," he told the shepherds. "They are signs, messages written by the gods. Learn them, and you will read the future." Kokabel taught the mapping of constellations. Shamsiel revealed the course of the sun. Batariel whispered spells, and Tamiel showed men how to call spirits from the wind. What had once been forbidden became art. The world grew wise but sick at the same time. Villages turned to cities, cities turned to kingdoms, and kingdoms to battlefields. The Nephilim led armies of men who bore the weapons Azazel had given them. The ground was never dry, because it drank the blood of both hunter and king. Semjaza stood on a hill overlooking the carnage. Smoke rose from the plains below. His heart, once filled with awe, now felt heavy. "This was not the world we dreamed of," he said. "We wanted to share the light, not drown it in blood." Azazel beside him smiled faintly. "You speak of light as if it were holy," he said. "Knowledge is neither holy nor cursed. It is only power, and power is never still." Semjaza turned to him. "And when that power consumes everything, what will remain?" Azazel's eyes gleamed like iron in the fire. "Then the world will be reborn. It must first burn to see what survives." But even Azazel began to sense what was coming. The earth began to shudder as if it could no longer bear the weight of sin. "The ground groans," said Arakiel. "It remembers the footsteps of angels and the blood of their sons." Semjaza lifted his face to the heavens. "Do you still see us?" he whispered. "Do you still remember who we were?" But the sky gave no answer. Above the burning world, the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel stood before the throne, watching the chaos below. Smoke rose from the valleys, and the cries of men echoed through the clouds. The earth, once green and alive, was drowning in its own blood. Michael was the first to speak. "Lord," he said, "the world you made cries out in pain. The rivers run red, and the hearts of men have turned to stone." Gabriel stepped forward. "The Watchers have defied your command," he said. "They walk among flesh and call it love. Their sons devour the living. If this continues, there will be nothing left to save." Raphael lowered his gaze. "The ground groans beneath their weight," he said softly. "Even the wind carries their corruption. Every breath of the earth has become a curse." Uriel raised his hand toward the horizon. "If we remain silent, their sin will spread beyond the earth," he warned. "Even heaven will not stay untouched." The four archangels lowered their heads. They had watched the Watchers twist the gift of creation, and their patience was gone. Yet even as they spoke, there was fear in their hearts for what God's wrath might bring. The three who arrived last seized me by the hand, lifting me away from the earthly generations and elevating me to a high and lofty place. They showed me a towering structure that loomed above the earth, while all the surrounding hills appeared small in comparison. One of the beings said to me, "Stay here and watch everything that happens to these elephants, camels, and asses, as well as the stars and the oxen. Observe all that befalls them." In the vision, I saw one of the first four beings who had come forth. He seized the original star that had fallen from heaven, binding it hand and foot before casting it into a narrow, deep, and dreadful abyss. Then another being drew a sword and handed it to the elephants, camels, and asses. Armed with this weapon, they began to strike each other, causing the earth to quake with the intensity of their conflict. As I watched, one of the four beings who had descended from heaven began to hurl stones at these creatures. He gathered all the great stars whose organs resembled those of horses, bound them hand and foot, and cast them into the same abyss of the earth, leaving them confined and helpless. One of the four beings approached the white bull and revealed a profound secret to him, causing no fear. The bull, transformed into a man, constructed a magnificent vessel for himself and dwelled within it. Alongside him, three other bulls took refuge in the vessel, their presence shielded within. Once more, I directed my gaze toward the heavens and beheld a towering roof, adorned with 7 torrents of water. These torrents poured forth an abundance of water into a vast enclosure. I looked again, and fountains erupted on the floor of that great enclosure, causing the water to rise and swell. The enclosure gradually filled with water until it was entirely submerged. As the water deepened, darkness and mist thickened. The water crested above the enclosure's height and began to overflow, covering the earth beneath. All the cattle within the enclosure were gathered together, and I watched as they sank, consumed by the rising waters and perished within their depths. The vessel, however, remained afloat, while all the oxen, elephants, camels, and asses sank beneath the water, disappearing from sight and meeting their doom. In the vision, I saw the torrents recede from the towering roof, revealing the earth's surface. Chasms were filled, and new abysses opened up. The waters drained into these new chasms, making the earth visible once again. The vessel settled on solid ground as darkness receded and light emerged. The white bull, now a man, emerged from the vessel along with the 3 bulls who had accompanied him. One was white like him, another was blood red, and the last was black. The white bull departed from them. The bulls began to create beasts of the field and birds, leading to the emergence of diverse species: lions, tigers, wolves, dogs, hyenas, wild boars, foxes, squirrels, swine, falcons, vultures, kites, eagles, and ravens. Among these, a new white bull was born. Conflict arose among these creatures, but the newly born white bull fathered a wild ass and another white bull. The wild asses multiplied from this lineage. The bull, born from the first white bull, sired a black wild boar and a white sheep. The wild boar produced many offspring, while the sheep gave birth to 12 lambs. As the 12 lambs grew, one was given to the wild asses, who then passed it to the wolves. This sheep matured among the wolves. The Lord of the sheep gathered the 11 remaining lambs and brought them to live and graze among the wolves. The flocks multiplied, growing numerous. The wolves, terrified of the increasing sheep, oppressed them fiercely, destroying their young and casting them into a river of great waters. The sheep cried out in anguish over their lost young and pleaded with their Lord. One sheep, having escaped the wolves, fled to the wild asses. I witnessed the sheep's lament and their fervent pleas to their Lord, who descended from his exalted dwelling in response. He called the sheep that had escaped and instructed it to warn the wolves not to harm the sheep. The sheep, following the Lord's command, went to the wolves, accompanied by another sheep. Together they entered the wolves' assembly and admonished them to cease their attacks on the sheep. Despite this, I saw how the wolves continued to oppress the sheep with all their might, causing them to cry out in distress. The Lord came to the sheep, and they began to fight against the wolves. The wolves, in their turn, lamented, but the sheep's cries ceased. I observed as the sheep left the wolves behind, while the wolves, blinded and enraged, pursued them with relentless vigor. The Lord of the sheep led them, his presence radiant and awe-inspiring. All the sheep followed him, their faces illuminated by his glory. The wolves chased the sheep until they reached a vast sea. The sea parted, standing as walls of water on either side, with their Lord guiding them and placing himself between the sheep and the wolves. As the wolves, unable to see the sheep, ventured into the sea, they followed them into the midst of the waters, their pursuit unceasing. As the wolves caught sight of the Lord of the sheep, they turned in terror to flee from his formidable presence. The sea, however, gathered itself and returned to its original state. The waters surged and rose, ultimately engulfing the wolves. I witnessed the dreadful scene as every wolf that had pursued the sheep was drowned and perished in the swelling sea. Yet the sheep escaped from the watery deluge and ventured into a barren wilderness, devoid of water and sustenance. In this desolate land, their eyes were opened to their surroundings. I observed the Lord of the sheep tenderly pasturing them, providing both water and grass, while the leading sheep guided them. The leading sheep ascended to the peak of a towering rock, and the Lord of the sheep sent it back to the flock. I saw the Lord of the sheep standing before them, his appearance majestic, awe-inspiring, and fearsome. The sight of him instilled profound fear in the sheep. They trembled and quaked in his presence, crying out to the leading sheep, "We cannot endure the sight of our Lord, nor stand before him." The leading sheep climbed again to the top of the rock, but the sheep began to lose their way and wander from the path it had shown them, though the sheep remained unaware of their deviation. The Lord of the sheep grew exceedingly wrathful with them. The leading sheep, sensing this, descended from the rock and found the majority of the sheep blinded and strayed. Upon encountering the straying flock, they trembled in fear at its presence and longed to return to their safe pastures. The leading sheep gathered other sheep and went to those who had wandered. It began to cull the wayward sheep, instilling fear in them, and thereby leading the strays back to their fold. In the vision, I saw the leading sheep transform into a man and construct a grand house for the Lord of the sheep, placing all the sheep within it. I saw how the sheep met with the leading sheep that had become a man, who then fell asleep. The grand sheep perished, and smaller ones rose in their stead, leading the flock to a new pasture and a flowing stream of water. The leader, now a man, withdrew from the sheep and fell asleep, causing great mourning among the flock. They cried out desperately for their lost leader. Eventually, the sheep ceased their cries and crossed the stream. New leaders emerged, 2 sheep taking charge where the old ones had fallen asleep. I witnessed the sheep arrive in a beautiful, lush land. The sheep thrived and were satisfied in this pleasant place where the house stood among them. At times their vision was clear, and other times it was obscured, until a new sheep arose to lead them, restoring their sight. As the sheep faced challenges from dogs, foxes, and wild boars, the Lord of the sheep raised a ram from their midst to lead them. The ram fought fiercely against the predators, ultimately destroying them all. However, the ram that had once been glorious grew corrupt and began to assault and trample the sheep, misusing its power. The Lord of the sheep appointed another lamb, transforming it into a ram to replace the fallen leader. This new ram became the prince and leader of the sheep. But during these events, the sheep continued to suffer from oppression by the dogs. The first ram pursued the second, but the second ram fled in fear. Eventually, the dogs overpowered and brought down the first ram. The second ram then took charge, leading the sheep. The flock multiplied and grew, while the predators fled in fear before the ram's might. The ram defeated the wild beasts, which no longer had power over the sheep. The ram fathered many sheep before falling asleep. A young sheep then succeeded him as ram and became the new leader. The house grew large and expansive, built for the sheep, and a towering structure was erected for the Lord of the sheep. This house, though low, was overshadowed by the grand tower where the Lord resided, and the sheep provided a full table before him. Yet I saw that once again the sheep strayed and forsook their house. The Lord of the sheep sent emissaries from among them, but these were slain by the sheep. One emissary survived and cried out over the flock, but the Lord saved it and brought it to me to dwell there. Many other sheep were sent to lament and testify to the flock, but when they abandoned the Lord's house and tower, they fell away completely. Their eyes were blinded, and the Lord wrought great slaughter among them until they invited their own ruin. He delivered them into the hands of lions, tigers, wolves, hyenas, foxes, and all wild beasts, who tore the sheep to pieces. The Lord abandoned the house and tower, leaving the sheep at the mercy of the wild beasts. They were ravaged and devoured. In my distress I cried out with all my strength, pleading with the Lord of the sheep to intervene as the wild beasts continued to devour his flock. Yet the Lord of the sheep remained unmoved, even as he watched the devastation unfold before his eyes. He rejoiced in their being devoured, swallowed, and plundered, leaving them at the mercy of the ravenous beasts. Then he summoned 70 shepherds and handed the sheep over to them, commanding them, "Each of you shall now tend to the sheep and do everything I instruct you. I will give you a specific number of sheep, and you are to destroy only those I command you to." He entrusted the sheep to their care. But he also called upon another and said, "Observe everything the shepherds do to the sheep. Watch closely, for they will destroy more than I have ordered. Record every excess and all the destruction they commit. Note how many perish by my decree, and how many fall by their reckless will. Document the wrongdoings of each shepherd." And to this observer he added, "Do not reveal this to the shepherds, neither warn them nor speak to them of their misdeeds. Simply write down every sheep they destroy and present the full account to me." In time, the shepherds began to tend the sheep, but they slaughtered far more than they were instructed. They handed the sheep over to the lions and other wild beasts. The lions and tigers tore through the sheep, devouring them in great numbers. Even the wild boars feasted on them. And the shepherds set fire to the tower and brought the house of the sheep crashing down. Sorrow weighed heavily upon me as I gazed upon the ruins of the tower. For the house of the sheep lay in rubble, and I could no longer tell if any of the sheep had managed to return to it. The shepherds and their accomplices continued to surrender the sheep to the wild beasts, each receiving a fixed number. Meanwhile, the observer faithfully recorded in his book how many sheep each shepherd destroyed, and many more perished than was decreed. I could not contain my grief, and I wept bitterly for the slaughtered sheep. In my vision I saw the one who kept the record bringing the book before the Lord of the sheep. Every name, every act of destruction was written down, and the book was laid before him. The Lord read it, sealed it, and set it aside. I continued to watch as the shepherds pastured for 12 more hours. In that time, 3 sheep turned back and entered the ruins, rebuilding what had been lost. They began to restore the tower, which was then called the High Tower. They also set a table before it, but the bread they placed upon it was defiled, impure. Yet throughout all this, the eyes of the sheep remained blinded, and so too were the eyes of their shepherds. The sheep were delivered into the hands of their shepherds, only to be trampled and devoured. The Lord of the sheep, however, remained unmoved, even as his flock was scattered across the fields and mingled with the wild beasts. The shepherds made no effort to save them. Once again, the observer who had written down all these things took the book and brought it before the Lord of the sheep. He pleaded earnestly on behalf of the sheep and testified against the shepherds, laying bare their many transgressions. The Lord accepted the book and placed it beside him before the observer departed. I saw that 35 more shepherds were appointed to pasture the sheep, each fulfilling their term. As before, others took over when their time was up, continuing the cycle. Then I saw the sky darken as flocks of birds descended upon the sheep, eagles, vultures, kites, and ravens. But it was the eagles who led the assault. They began to feast on the sheep, tearing at their flesh and gouging out their eyes. The sheep cried out in agony as their bodies were devoured, and I, in my sleep, wept and mourned for the shepherds who had been entrusted with their care. The dogs, eagles, and kites continued their feast, leaving no trace of flesh, skin, or sinew. Only the bare bones of the sheep remained, and even those bones crumbled to the earth as the sheep dwindled in number. I watched as 23 more shepherds took up their duties, each fulfilling their period, spanning 58 more times. But amidst this horror, new lambs were born to the white sheep. Their eyes opened, and they began to cry out to the rest of the flock. Though the lambs called to their elders, the older sheep were deaf to their pleas, their ears blind to the truth. Then I saw the ravens swoop down upon the lambs. One lamb was seized, dashed to the ground, and devoured. Yet despite this, horns began to grow upon the lambs, though the ravens tried to tear them down. In time, one sheep sprouted a great horn, and its eyes were opened fully. This sheep turned and gazed upon the others, crying out to them. The rams heard the call, and they all rushed toward the one with the great horn. Even after all of this, the eagles, vultures, ravens, and kites continued their merciless attack, swooping down upon the sheep and tearing into them, devouring their flesh. And though the sheep suffered, they remained silent, while the rams cried out in sorrow and anguish. The ravens, desperate to overpower the ram, fought fiercely against it, seeking to break its mighty horn, yet they had no strength to defeat it. I watched as the shepherds, along with the eagles, vultures, and kites, called upon the ravens to shatter that ram's horn. They joined forces in a violent struggle, but the ram fought back with great desperation, crying out for deliverance. And then, before my eyes, the man who recorded the names of the shepherds descended from the presence of the Lord of the sheep. He came to the aid of the ram, revealing to it all that had been written. His arrival was the ram's salvation. At last, the Lord of the sheep appeared, his wrath burning like an unquenchable fire. Upon seeing him, all who had gathered, shepherds, beasts, and birds alike, fled in terror, scrambling to escape his gaze. They were cast into his shadow, consumed by fear. The eagles, vultures, ravens, and kites were all gathered together, and the sheep of the fields came as well, uniting with the beasts and birds in their efforts to break the ram's horn. But I saw the man who had written the book open it, presenting the record of the 12 last shepherds. They had wrought greater destruction than any before them. The Lord of the sheep saw this and was filled with fury. The Lord took his staff of wrath in hand, and with a mighty blow he struck the earth. The ground split open, and all the beasts and birds of the heavens that had tormented the sheep were swallowed by the earth, which closed upon them, sealing their doom. Then I saw that a great sword was given to the sheep. With this weapon they rose against the beasts of the field, slaying them in vengeance. The beasts and birds fled from the sheep, but none could escape their wrath. In the land of peace, a great throne was erected, and the Lord of the sheep seated himself upon it. The man who had written the book brought out the sealed records and opened them before the Lord. The Lord called forth 7 men, clothed in white, and commanded them to bring before him the stars, whose hidden sins were like the impurities of horses. These stars were brought before him, trembling in judgment. Then the Lord turned to the man who had been recording all the events and said, "Take those 70 shepherds, those to whom I entrusted the sheep, and who, acting out of their own will, slaughtered far more than I commanded. And behold, I saw that they were all bound, and they stood before the Lord, trembling in their guilt. Judgment was passed first upon the stars. They were found guilty, condemned, and cast into a blazing abyss filled with unrelenting flames, burning pillars of fire. The 70 shepherds faced their judgment next, and they too were found guilty. They were hurled into the same fiery abyss, their fate sealed. As I continued to watch, the earth opened yet again, revealing another abyss of fire in its depths. The blinded sheep were brought before it, and they too were judged. All were found guilty, and one by one they were cast into the flames, where they burned until nothing remained but ashes. This abyss lay to the right of the house of the sheep. I watched in horror as the sheep burned, their very bones consumed by the fire. And then I saw the house of old, the house that had sheltered the sheep, being folded up. Its pillars, beams, and ornaments were all taken down and carried away, placed in a distant land to the south. But then a new house appeared, greater and more magnificent than the first. It was set up in the place of the old, its pillars stronger, its decorations grander. All the sheep that remained were gathered into this new house. As I looked upon the scene, I saw all the beasts of the earth and birds of the sky bowing in submission to the sheep. They made supplications and obeyed the sheep in all things. The Lord of the sheep rejoiced greatly, for all the sheep had returned to his house. In that moment, the 3 men clothed in white, who had once taken me by the hand, appeared again. They, along with the ram, lifted me up and placed me in the midst of the sheep, just before judgment was to commence. The sheep were now clothed in pure white wool, abundant and clean. All those who had been destroyed or scattered were gathered in the new house, and the Lord rejoiced with overwhelming joy at their return, for they were now good and faithful. I watched as the sword, once given to the sheep, was taken back into the house, and it was sealed before the presence of the Lord. All the sheep were invited into the house, though it could not contain them all, for they were so numerous. Suddenly, all their eyes were opened, and they beheld the goodness that surrounded them. Not one among them was blind, for all could see clearly. I saw that the house was vast and spacious, filled to the brim with the sheep. Then from among them a white bull was born with large horns. All the beasts of the field and birds of the sky feared him and sought his favor, making petitions to him without ceasing. I watched as the generations of the sheep were transformed, one after the other, until they all became white bulls. Among them, the first one became a lamb, but this lamb grew into a mighty beast with great black horns upon its head. The Lord of the sheep rejoiced over this lamb and all the oxen. In the midst of them, I fell into a deep sleep, and when I awoke, I had seen everything. This is the vision that came to me in my sleep. When I awoke, I blessed the Lord of righteousness and glorified his name. But I could not stop weeping. Tears flowed without end as the weight of all I had seen overwhelmed me. I wept because I knew that everything would come to pass, and all the deeds of men, each in their time, had been revealed to me. That night, I remembered my first dream, and the vision filled me with sorrow and unrest. I wept for what I had witnessed, for the fate of all was laid bare before me. In that time the angels will descend into hidden places, gathering those who have led humanity into sin. And on that day, the Most High will rise to execute his great judgment upon the sinners. Over all the righteous and the holy, he will appoint guardians from among his angels to protect them like the apple of his eye, keeping them safe until all wickedness is wiped away. Though the righteous may sleep long in their graves, they need not fear, for their rest is secure. The children of the earth will witness this. They will see the wise dwell in safety and will finally understand the words of this prophecy. In that day, they will realize that their wealth cannot save them from the consequences of their sins. "Woe to you, sinners," Enoch proclaimed. "On the day of unbearable anguish, you who torment the righteous and burn them with fire will be repaid for your deeds. Woe to you, hardened of heart, who stay awake plotting wickedness. Fear will descend upon you, and none shall be there to rescue you. Woe to you, for the words of your mouth and the works of your hands, born from your godlessness, have earned you a fate worse than the fire itself. You will burn in blazing flames, hotter and more terrible than any earthly fire. And know this, the Most High will inquire of the angels concerning your deeds. He will question the sun, the moon, and the stars about your sins, for you have passed unjust judgments upon the righteous here on earth. Even the clouds, the mist, the dew, and the rain will testify against you. Because of your evil, these will be withheld, and the heavens will remember your wickedness. Go ahead, offer gifts of gold and silver to the rain, hoping it will fall again, or to the dew, so that it will descend upon you. But it will be to no avail. When the frost and snow with their biting cold and the raging storms with all their plagues come upon you, you will not be able to stand against them." Enoch then turned to speak to the children of heaven, the faithful. "Look to the heavens, all of you who are children of the Most High. Behold the works of the Almighty, and let reverence fill your hearts. Do no evil in his presence. If he shuts the windows of heaven, withholding the rain and dew from the earth because of your sins, what will you do then? And if his anger burns against you because of your wickedness, what hope will you have? You cannot plead with him, for you have spoken proud, insolent words against his righteousness, and therefore you will know no peace. Do you not see the sailors upon the seas, how their ships are tossed to and fro by waves, how they tremble in fear as the winds rage around them? They are afraid because their treasures sail with them, and they dread that the sea will swallow them whole. Yet sinners, you who walk upon the earth, do not fear the Most High, though all the seas, their waters, and their movements are his handiwork, bound by his command. He speaks, and the waters dry up, and all that live within them perish, and yet you fear him not. Has he not created the heavens and the earth, and all that is within them? Has he not given wisdom and understanding to every creature that moves upon the earth and within the sea? Even the sailors tremble before the power of the sea. Yet you sinners do not tremble before the Almighty." Enoch's voice grew darker as he foretold the day of reckoning for the wicked. "In the days when he brings a terrible fire upon you, where will you run? Where will you find deliverance? When he sends forth his word against you, will you not tremble in fear? Even the lights of the heavens will tremble in great terror, and the earth will quake with alarm. The angels will move to carry out their commands, and in their fear they will seek to hide themselves from the presence of the great glory. The children of the earth will tremble, and you, sinners, will be cursed forever. You will know no peace. But do not fear, righteous souls. Be full of hope, you who have died in righteousness. Do not grieve because your soul has descended into Sheol in sorrow, or because your body did not prosper in life according to your goodness. Be patient and wait for the day of judgment upon the sinners, for the day of curses and retribution. For when you die, the sinners mock you, saying, "As we die, so die the righteous." What gain do they have from their deeds? Look, they die just as we do, in grief and darkness. What more do they have than we? From now on, we are all the same. What will they receive? What will they see forevermore? They too have died, and from this point forward, they will never see the light. But I tell you, sinners, while you feast and drink, robbing and sinning, stripping men of their dignity and wealth, living in comfort and seeing good days, you do not see the truth of the righteous. Their end is peaceful, and no violence touches them until death. And though you say, "They perished as though they had never existed, and their spirits descended into Sheol in sorrow," you deceive yourselves, for their rest is in righteousness, and their reward will be revealed in the judgment to come. Now, I swear to you, O righteous ones, by the glory of the great and honored, the mighty one who reigns in supreme dominion, by his immeasurable greatness, I swear to you this truth. I know a profound mystery, a secret hidden in the heavens. I have read from the sacred tablets of the divine, and I have seen the holy books where it is written. It is recorded that all goodness, joy, and glory have been prepared for those who have died in righteousness. I have seen that these treasures are written down for their spirits, and abundant blessings are set aside for you, far greater than what the living could ever know. For your spirits, you who have departed in righteousness, shall live on and rejoice. Your spirits shall not perish, nor will your memory ever fade from before the face of the Great One. You will be remembered through all the generations of the world, so do not fear the scorn of the wicked any longer. But to the sinners I say, woe unto you when you die, especially if you die steeped in the wealth of your sins. For those like you will say, look at these sinners, blessed indeed, for they have seen all their days in prosperity. They have died rich and honored, untouched by tribulation or violence. No judgment fell upon them while they lived. But hear this truth. Their souls will descend into Sheol, and there they will be miserable in their great suffering. Into darkness they will be cast, bound in chains, and their spirits will be engulfed by a burning flame where grievous judgment awaits them. Woe unto you, sinners, for you shall have no peace, now or ever. And do not speak, O righteous ones, in despair, saying, in our troubled days we have labored through endless toil. We have faced every form of evil, been consumed by affliction, and have become few, with our spirits broken. We have been crushed and found no one to help us, not even a word of comfort. We have been tortured and destroyed, losing hope of ever seeing life from one day to the next. We wished to be the head, but instead, we became the tail. Our labor has been in vain, yielding no satisfaction. We have been like food for sinners and the unrighteous, who placed heavy burdens upon us. Those who hated us ruled over us and struck us down. We bowed our necks to them, but they showed no mercy. We longed to escape from their grasp, to find rest, but there was no refuge for us, no place to hide. We cried out in our tribulation to those in power, begging for justice against those who devoured us. But our cries fell on deaf ears. They did not listen to our voices. Instead, they helped those who plundered and destroyed us. They concealed their oppression, never lifting the yoke of those who scattered and murdered us, forgetting the evil they had done and the bloodshed they had caused. Yet I swear to you, O righteous ones, the angels in heaven remember you for good before the glory of the Great One. Your names are written before His majesty. Therefore take heart and find hope, for though you were once shamed by affliction, now you shall shine like the lights of heaven. You will shine, and you will be seen by all, for the very gates of heaven will be opened to you. When you cry out for justice, your cry will be heard, and judgment will come. All your tribulation will be brought upon the heads of the rulers and upon all who aided those who plundered you. Do not cast away your hope, for great joy awaits you, as glorious as the joy of the angels in heaven. You shall not need to hide on the day of great judgment. You will not be counted among sinners, and eternal judgment will be far from you for all the generations of the world. Fear not when you see sinners growing strong, when they prosper in their ways. Do not join them, but stay far from their violence, for in the end you shall be companions with the hosts of heaven. And though sinners say, "Our sins will never be uncovered or written down," I tell you the truth. Every day, all your sins are being recorded. Light and darkness, day and night, they see your deeds, and nothing is hidden from them. Do not let godlessness rule your hearts, and do not lie. Do not twist the words of righteousness, nor accuse the words of the Holy One of deceit. Turn away from your idols, for all your lies and wickedness lead only to great sin. I understand another mystery. Sinners will try to twist the words of righteousness. They will pervert the truth in many ways, speaking wicked words, telling lies, and practicing deceit. They will write books full of falsehoods to justify their ways. But know this: when my words are written down truthfully in their languages, without changing or diminishing anything I have spoken, then righteousness shall flourish. The books will be given to the righteous and the wise, and these books will bring joy, uprightness, and wisdom to all who receive them. In those days, the righteous, who have learned the ways of justice and truth from these writings, will be rewarded. And in that time, the Lord himself will summon the righteous to testify before the children of the earth. He will instruct them, for they are the guides of humanity and will receive their reward over the whole earth. For I and my Son will be united with them forever, walking with them on the path of righteousness throughout their lives, and peace will be with you. Rejoice, O children of righteousness, for your time of glory is at hand. Amen.